Now we continue with part number 3. I had to stop in the middle of the recording because my battery ran out of charge. But anyway, quick overview. Very quick overview. Nightmare on Elm Street. First part. This is where all began. This is, by today's standards, a classic. Horror film classic. Nightmare on Elm Street 2. Nightmare on Elm Street 2 is a bizarre movie. I wouldn't say the movie is bad, as many people have been saying. I think the movie is, an unnecessary sequel. A sequel that was made because, Nightmare on Elm Street was a huge success and all that stuff. Though I do admit that Nightmare on Elm Street 2 was, bland in between. Let's say the beginning was great, the ending was great, the middle of the movie just flopped. Nightmare on Elm Street 3, The Dream Warriors, first part of the Dream trilogy. Quite possibly the best Nightmare on Elm Street movie or sequel, quite possibly. Let's see what else we have over here. We also saw Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master. This is essentially passing of the torch to another set of Dream Warriors, as I said earlier. I don't know if it was on part 2, or while I was doing the previous recording for this. I didn't agree, that much with killing off Kincaid and the others. I like Alice, but I believe that they should, they should have perhaps left a little bit more survivors. But anyway, this is horror business, and they know how they do their stuff. This is the man who made this possible, the director, Rennie Harlin. Nightmare on Elm Street 5, The Dream Child, part 3 of the Dream trilogy. The Dream Child was a movie that unfortunately had many script problems. Nevertheless, they made it, and it's history. Number 6, Freddys Dead. This is the let's say the weakest, or let's say the most bland of them all. What killed this movie was essentially the lack of personality by many of the characters. Only Robert Englund and Yaphet Kotto stand out in this movie. I do not agree, with the way of Freddy Krueger's daughter. That was a very interesting story, a concept. Unfortunately, it wasn't handled that way. Now, why didn't I mention this in the quick overview? Wes Craven's New Nightmare, because I wanted to save that for the end. We have here Freddy Krueger. Let's say this is a more updated version, or let's say it relates more to Wes Craven's idea. In New Nightmare, Freddy Krueger is trying to cross over to the real world. Freddy is being portrayed as some sort of entity or force that is actually trying to cross over. You can say the attachment that is between Freddy Krueger, entity or force, and Heather Langenkamp, because Heather Langenkamp is the one who played Nancy, and it seems that Freddy thinks that she was the one who put him down, so he's trying to, get it over with. It would have been very interesting, in my opinion, to see Freddy Krueger actually chase or come up face to face with Robert Englund. That would have been a hell of a story. Now, Regarding Wes Craven's New Nightmare, there is something that I must say. I saw the movie when it came out. I think it was 1993, 1994. Back then, I hated it. Why did I hate it? Because I was, early 90s. I just wanted to see, just like anybody else, a good slasher film, lots of slashing, blood, witty one-liner comebacks from Freddy. Like, welcome to prime time, bitch. Which is one of the most famous one-liners from Freddy that's in Nightmare on Elm Street 3. But anyway, I saw the movie, didn't like it. In fact, I even fell asleep while watching it. Now, 16 years later, I have seen it again before buying this collection. And I see it differently now. In my personal opinion, and less than humble opinion, I think that Wes Craven's New Nightmare was a movie that was ahead of its time. Wes Craven's New Nightmare was a movie that was, let's say, 94, 95, 96, 3 years. I think it was 3 years or 4 ahead of its time. Many people think that this is the precursor of the Scream series or the Scream form of horror, let's say that the form of horror that is depicted in the Scream series was actually created or originated in this movie. That I don't know because I haven't seen Scream yet. I love horror movies. I love them all because of the creativity behind them. But I like horror movies with, spiritual, metaphysical themes, supernatural stuff, such as our subject matter. But anyway, I saw the movie again, and I can tell you that it was ahead of its time. It's a very interesting concept. Freddy Krueger becoming some sort of a force that is trying to cross over. Let me tell you, it's a movie that it is actually, first and foremost, it is the vision of Wes Craven. And it's a movie that has its own merits. But it's also a movie that has to be appreciated and evaluated within or from one's own standpoint. I mean, if you go to watch this movie waiting for same old, you're gonna get disappointed. If you follow somebody else's commentaries or reviews, possibly you're gonna receive some sort of bias either towards it or against it. I believe it's a very interesting concept. The movie, it gives you the impression. That's why I recommend this movie to be watched with utmost objectivity, if that is possible, because we human beings cannot be objective. That is not true. That is not true. We try, but we cannot. We are always subjective, and most of the times we develop our ideas, quote unquote, from somebody else's ideas, quote unquote, which in turn comes from somebody else's ideas, and so forth, so on. But anyway, this is the movie that gives you the impression that the whole story is around Nancy, or Heather Langenkamp, which is not true. It is not true at all. It is the impact that, in a way, the impact that horror movie making creates upon the people who actually creates them, about this mythological force that actually has taken a life of its own, a life that actually sprang from the concepts or the foundations laid by its creators. Let me see, let's try to go now to part, this is part 3, I'm going to have to go to part 4, just a moment.